25 minutes before 7 on this Monday morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. KwaZulu-Natal has seen a spate of political killings of ANC members in recent weeks, with senior ANC leaders attributing it to factionalism within the party. President Cyril Ramaphosa has since formed a ministerial task team, which includes the Police Minister, Bheki Cele, the State Security Minister, Dipuo Letsatsi-Duba, and the Minister of Defence and Military Veterans, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula. The Justice Minister is also part of this, Michael Masutha. For some analysis on the developments in KZN, we're now joined by political analyst Xolani Dube. Xolani, thank you. Thanks very much for joining us here on the program.
Morning, and morning to the viewers at home.
So the ANC, its NEC member, Senzo Mkhunu, has stated that there is no doubt that the political killings in KZN are as a result of factionalism within the party. Do you agree with this viewpoint?
I think his utterances, to a certain extent, there is an element of truth, but the reality that the Zupera Institute for Research and Development has been observing is the fact that these killings, they are not really political killings per se. The reason for our argument is that most of these killings, if you look at them, number of people who are dying or all the people who have been killed are so-called black people, the Africans, whereas they come from political organization which claims or that claims to be multiracial. And so if political killings are happening in KwaZulu-Natal, how come that members of this political organization who are white, who are Indians, who are colored, are not being killed?
I mean, if we look at these conferences that have been put on hold and they haven't been held, you know, this is I imagine a difficult decision that has to be made. But what do you think it's wise in any way to actually proceed with these conferences? Because, I mean, there is still huge volatility in KZN.
I think the violence in KwaZulu-Natal or these killings has been institutionalized to a certain extent because it's not the first time that in the South African political discourse we talk about the killings in KwaZulu-Natal. And so the issue of conferences or not conferences, I don't think that are supposed to be the real issues, because in Free State there was a conference. Pre the conference, there were no killings. In Northwest, there is volatility in terms of social unrest against the premier of that province, but there are no killings. And so what makes KwaZulu-Natal, when you talk about the politics of KwaZulu-Natal, is always coupled with killings. And so I think there must be a deeper analysis of why and only in KwaZulu-Natal when you talk about politics and then you factor the issue of killings.
You know, it doesn't appear to only be KZN though. There seems to be a problem in most of the provinces at the moment within the ANC. And perhaps we need to read much deeper into this, into the divisions within the ruling party, and that being at the root of all of this.
Leanne, allow me to differ with you, because look, in one region, in KwaZulu-Natal, 14 people have been killed. Tell me any other region that of the ANC throughout the country where there is so much killing only in one region. There is none, is only in this province. And so that's why my argument is the ANC, the South African government, and especially the people of KwaZulu-Natal, they must start to question themselves around these killings. What informs these killings and why these killings are going on? Because we have to understand that pre-apartheid, the legislation of apartheid laws, there were killings. And even post the legislation of apartheid laws, there are killings as well. And so that's why I'm saying that is a worrying factor that needs a thorough and an honest analysis within the academics as well as the people who are in the political leadership in KwaZulu-Natal.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's talk from a lot of the NEC members as well, basically saying, listen, stop focusing in on the provincial leadership battles here. Let's put them on hold until after the 29 elections. Let's focus on the elections rather, and then we'll worry about it afterwards. Is that perhaps a simplistic way of thinking? Because if your party is, and your members are not on the same page with regard to the ruling party, with regard to the policies and its leadership and everything, I mean, to delay this tactic after the 2019 elections, do you think this is a clever route to go? Or do you say, battle it all out now, find the peace you need, and then start electioneering?
I think that's a short-term kind of a solution. But the fact of the matter is, it might really lead to the really explosion of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, because you have to bear in mind that towards election, there's so much at stake, and especially even post-election, there's so much at stake. Take an example of who's going to become the premier of the province, who's going to become the MECs, and who are going to send into the provincial parliament as well as in the national parliament. If these killings are political related, and if they are political related to a certain extent, they are linked to the patronage that comes with the politics of our country, with such kind of deployment of going to parliament, being an MEC, and so forth. And so it means that the ANC, if it puts these conferences into abeyance, it will have a serious problem to solve these issues post the next year general elections.
What about the Morani Commission? What's happening there?
Look, a commission is just a commission. Commission send recommendation. The commission, at the end of the day, is not the solution. The solution is within the role players in our province. And who are these role players? They are people who have decided to align themselves with certain leaders in our province because they felt that these are the leaders to a certain extent that can give them kind of patronage that the political space comes with, being an MEC, your MP, and so forth. And so I think these leaders in our province that people sing about them in their songs must sit down in one room and say to the constituents of KwaZulu-Natal, stop this what you are doing, not in our name, because this is dividing our province further, and more, it escalates the killings in this province in our name. And so they must stand up in unison because they are comrade and say this must stop.
Yeah. I mean, let's sort of round this up and get to the crux of what's happening, because, you know, there's still this massive debate as to whether the province will actually support the ANC leader Cyril Ramaphosa, because, you know, they're still very unhappy, and a lot of factions are very unhappy at the way former President Jacob Zuma was removed. They were great supporters of Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. And this still being said is at the heart of everything, that many of the staunch supporters of Zuma will not support Ramaphosa as president, and this is what's leading to all of these battles. Do you agree with that sentiment, or do you think it's deeper than that? Is there more that we should be looking at?
I think in terms of quantitatively, when we talk about election, it might be kind of an unqualified statement to say, yes, number of people in KwaZulu-Natal who are members of the ANC are not going to vote for Ubaba Cyril Ramaphosa, because there is no base for such kind of utterances, but it's only the assumption, you know. But in reality, if they are not going to vote for Ubaba Cyril Ramaphosa or not vote for the ANC national, I think that will be kind of a suicidal on their side, because, look, it will decrease the number of people who are supposed to go to the national parliament, because there will be less MPs who will be going to the parliament national. Meaning that at the end of the day, those who are not going to make it to the national list, they have to come back to the province. And so it means that the province is going to be saturated by a number of comrades who are unemployed. And then there will be a pushing factor of those comrades who are MPLs to accommodate those comrades who come from the national parliament. And then can you imagine what will happen thereafter when there is so much unemployment also within the ANC rank? And so it means that it's going to be a serious challenge within the ANC, because most of these wars or most of these killings are based on resources, has nothing to do with ideology, is about economic opportunities amongst the comrades of the ANC.
All right, Xolani, we thank you very, very much for your time and for chatting to us here on Morning Live, giving us his views, his perspectives on the state of affairs within KwaZulu-Natal. Conferences still being delayed and waiting for the Morani Commission, and also, of course, this ministerial task team that's been set up to look into the situation. Thanks so much once again to our guest. Let's take a break.